Sasha knowingly sacrifices the second grade for the sake of technique. And in the past it had components higher than Shcherbakova. The second grade has always been considered a weakness of Alexandra Trusova. Partly due to her instability, partly due to her alleged lack of choreographic skill and expressiveness. However, it is impossible to say that the Russian rocket is attacked by the judges with components. From the very beginning of her adult career, Sasha walked by the second assessment of many experienced skaters. She was behind only the most famous foreign athletes and her friends on the Team Tutbirds. Unfortunately, lagging behind the latter causes Sasha maximum inconvenience and negates all her efforts with quadruple jumps. Mistakes don't go away. His first adult season, Alexandra Trusova began with quite modest points for the components. Making her debut at the Andrej Napela Memorial, she received a second grade of 32.20 in the flawless short program and 65.44 in the free skate, where she scored a Rittberger in the triple Lutz cascade. But there are no surprises. Yesterday's juniors are traditionally stuck components, and then watch as newcomers manifest themselves during the season. With more or less stable performances, the components grow. And Sasha, of course, they also eventually grew. Not as much as you would expect, though, given her double junior world champion title. At the same Japan Open team event, Sasha lost more than 2 points in the components. At random, her second rating was 63.02. The decrease could be caused by lipstick on 2 cascades and not in her favor. Comparison with the famous figure skaters, out of 6 participants Trusova showed only a 5th result on the components. This did not prevent her from winning. Space jumps provided very solid points on the technique. But the lag from Alina Zagitova with her 74.33 points for components hinted that in case of gross mistakes no quadruple Sasha will help. It'll be packed neatly for more stable girls. During the stages of the Grand Prix, Sasha gradually built up the second grade, and not only in the short program, where she had no breaks, but also in the arbitrary with falls. At both Canada and Russia, it was the 4th component. In Canada, she scored 67.42 points for components, nearly 4.5 points more than in the Japanese command. Then at the stage in Moscow, Sasha lost half a point, but there she fell twice, all business. But in the final of the Grand Prix, sympathies of the judges were clearly not on Sasha's side. The growing components in the short rolled back down again. 32.80 points were the lowest of all 6 finalists. In the free skating story, the same story, 65.93 points, the least of all. But the athlete still did not demonstrate stable riding. Her downfall was already beginning to look like something inevitable. Ended his first adult season in terms of components, Alexandra Trusova with a plus sign. At the European Championships in the second grade she scored 34.42 points in the short and 67.25 points in the free. Compared to the first tournament, its components did not grow much but were still considered among the highest among European skaters. Only Kosternaya and Shcherbakova recruited more than Sasha. Plyshchenko breakthrough didn't work. Despite the fact that with Truskova's transition to Evgeny Plyshchenko, many noted her progress in choreography, sliding and interpretation of the program, in the components it was not affected. Here is immediately recalled the famous parable about the right staff, but we must not forget that the international star skaters in the pre-Olympic season had only 2. The Grand Prix stage in Russia, and that it can be called with a big stretch, and the World Championship. Assessments on internal starts did not reflect the real picture. The opportunity to GROW almost did not exist. At the same time, Sasha did not perform well in both competitions. At the Grand Prix, she had a terrible parade of falls in an arbitrary, so 66.32 points, good ingredients in a completely ruined program. At the World Championships, the Russian rocket generally remained without a cascade in the short, but her 34.48 points in the second rating still received. And in the free one, which she won, she had 2 falls and a foursquare error, so 66.34 is not such a low component. A year before the Olympics, Sasha failed to raise his second grade. It is a pity, because in Beijing, every point was literally worth the gold. Progress on the eve of the Olympics. Alexandra opened the Olympic season with a fairly crumpled ticket at the Norwood tournament. The fall from the triple axel in the short immediately affected her second grade, only 33.92 points. In the arbitrary mistakes there was even more: a quad flip fall, a butterfly on a quadruple loop, a Pomarka on a quad Lutz, and a cascade of a quadruple Lutz, Euler, triple Salchow. Naturally, Sasha's components were not spoiled, 64.40 points, as a memory of the first adult starts. Even Etheri Tutberid's next to Sasha could not fix the situation. A unique opportunity to learn how Sasha will be appreciated in the case of clean performances fell on the US Grand Prix. A serious injury forced skater to significantly ease the content, no tricks in the short and 1 quadruple Lutz in the free. The components immediately soared, 35.48 for the fiery FRIDA and 69 for the restless CRUELLA in the original dress with the newspaper. Nevertheless, these 69 points are the fourth result of the second evaluation. Sasha, as usual, won thanks to the technique. Kaori Sakamoto, Daria Usachiva and Yian Yu beat her in components. And for 15-year-old Dashi, that tournament became her debut in adults. However, clean skating at the Grand Prix in the United States helped to improve Trusova's reputation in terms of stability. Despite errors in both rentals at the European Championships, its components remained almost at the same level. In the short decreased 34.69, fall from the triple axel, but in the arbitrary slightly grew 69.55. And this is against a backdrop of 2 quads and a cascade of lipstick. Peak at the Olympics. The growth of Sasha's components continued at the Olympics. For FRIDA with the fall, she received the same 35.48 points in Beijing as for the clean rental without Trixel at the Grand Prix in the United States. And in the free skater second rating for the first time exceeded the threshold of 70.97, the third result after Shcherbakova and Sakamoto. But is it so much for 5 FIFTHS without furling? Controversial question. The performance of Sasha, of course, was not impeccable, the lipstick on 2 quads and a double axel cascade, triple tulip. But to encourage such complexity and risk at such an important start would probably be worth more. For comparison, Shcherbakova received 37.33 points in the short and 75.26 points in the free. At the European Championships, Ani had 36.26 in the short with the disrupted cascade. Points are noticeably higher than Trusova with the same mistake a year earlier at the World Championships. And in the free 74.27 with a clean rental with 1-4 flip. But initially it was Shcherbakova behind Truskaya components. Not the other way around. I did, but I lost. Ani's adult career started at the Lombardia Trophy with 64 points for components in the short, Lutz Rittberger, and 64.32 points in the free, and free with the fourth Lutz. At the first adult tournament, the components were higher, but then something went wrong. In many ways, persistent errors could have slowed progress in the second assessment. Sasha deliberately sacrificed components, betting on the evaluation for the technique. This was partly justified, you can get a lot more for the technique. But it is also impossible to underestimate the strength of the components. At the Olympics, Sasha lost in the components of Anna 6 points. Without this difference, the gold in Beijing would have won the Russian missile. Sasha's components did grow in 3 seasons, but not as much as her main rival. But now she has 4 more years to fix this misunderstanding. And if doing the same strip surgery is gonna help her do that, it's gonna be really cool. That's all for today. If this information was interesting to you, put likes, subscribe to the channel, and see you soon.